Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be diving in.
So today we're looking at something quite specific, a single regulatory decision that's currently being, well, mulled over in Abuja.
That's right. And it might sound niche, but honestly, the potential impact, it could ripple right across the global aviation scene.
Yeah, and even redraw some strategic maps, potentially.
Yeah.
We're really sitting at the intersection of, technology, hard economics, and some pretty high-stakes geopolitics here.
Definitely.
So our mission today for you listening is to really get under the skin of this. Nigeria's Civil Aviation Authority is actively considering certifying China's new commercial jet, the COMAC C919. What does that actually mean?
It's a big one.
And this plane, the C919, for anyone not familiar, well, it's a statement piece, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's China's very explicit state-backed answer to the giants Boeing and Airbus, the duopoly that's dominated for so long.
And it's not a small regional thing either. This is a brand new narrow-body jet. Seats what, about 168 to 190 passengers?
Exactly. So it's designed to go head-to-head, directly competing with the workhorses like the Boeing 737 MX-8 and the Airbus A320neo.
Planes most people fly on, basically.
Precisely. And that technical detail is key. We're not talking about, some small turboprop. This is a medium-haul aircraft aimed at busy routes.
Right.
And what's really interesting from the sources is that this move in Nigeria, it seems less about China sort of muscling in and maybe more about Nigeria seeing a chance here, a new tool to fix some very real domestic economic headaches.
Okay, so that leads us to the core question for you, the listener, looking for that strategic angle. Why Nigeria? Why this plane? What are the potential, real-world benefits for passengers? And maybe bigger picture. How does one regulatory decision in Africa potentially shake up the entire global game for making planes and, foreign relations?
It's a fantastic case study, really. You see how a push for, let's say, commercial savings can actually trigger these profound geopolitical shifts.
Yeah.
It just shows commercial aviation. It's never just about selling seats, is it?
Yeah.
It always ties back to sovereign choices, partnerships.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then, starting with the practical stuff. The immediate benefits for Nigerian Airlines. That's our segment one. The economic logic.
Makes sense.
The sources keep mentioning choice and cost. But maybe dig into that a bit. Why is the current setup, with Boeing and Airbus so difficult that Nigerian carriers are seriously looking at this new player? It's a big step, certifying a whole new manufacturer.
It is a big step. And the difficulty, the pain point,
Yeah.
it really comes from being inside that Western duopoly for, decades.
Right.
Think about the total cost of ownership. It's not just buying the plane. It's pilot training. It's maintenance. Crucially, it's the spare parts over years and years.
Okay.
And in that system, the leverage is mostly with the sellers with Boeing and Airbus. Nigerian Airlines, like others, often face long waits for parts, plus pretty high fixed prices for the special tools and the specific ways maintenance has to be done. It's all dictated.
So it makes running the airline really inflexible and expensive day to day.
Exactly.
But hang on, if cost is the big issue, why not just buy older Western planes? They'd be cheaper up front, surely. And you'd avoid all the regulatory hassle of certifying COMAC.
That's a really good question, and it gets to the complexity. Yes, older jets, cheaper purchase price, but their operating costs, much, much higher. Think fuel burn, mainly. Plus, more maintenance headaches as they age.
Oh, okay.
The C919, being brand new, uses modern engines. So its fuel efficiency should be much closer to the latest A320neos and 737Xs.
Right, the current generation.
Exactly. And crucially, the sources are hinting that China might be offering, let's say, very attractive financing deals, probably state-backed, and maybe even things like subsidized spare parts logistics arranged through government-to-government deals.
Ah, so it's the whole package.
It's that combination, potentially low buying cost plus modern fuel efficiency. That's what makes it look appealing on paper.
So the real leverage Nigeria could gain here isn't just a cheaper sticker price on the plane itself. It's the chance to break free from that really expensive long-term maintenance cycle controlled by the established players.
That's in precisely the strategic thinking behind bringing in the C919 time. It's not just about getting more planes in the air. It's about driving down that total cost of ownership across their operation.
Okay.
Certifying it becomes a sort of strategic move at the government level to basically force more competition into the market.
Yeah.
Nigerian Airlines could gain more independence in how they source parts, how they manage maintenance, maybe even reduce their vulnerability to, say, dollar fluctuations or geopolitical issues that sometimes mess with supply chains from the West.
Right. That makes sense for the airlines books. But let's bring it back to the person actually flying. We always hear airlines promising that savings will trickle down to cheaper tickets. Doesn't really happen. Is there anything in the source material suggesting this could genuinely mean more affordable flights for Nigerians?
Yet that's always the key question, isn't it? The so what for the passenger.
Hmm.
And look, there's no guarantee savings automatically mean lower fares. That'll depend on how competitive the domestic airline market is and maybe some regulatory oversight too.
Sure.
But the potential is definitely there. If having the C919 lets Nigerian Airlines grow their fleets faster, maybe run routes more often and do it all more efficiently, well, those lower operating costs give them room to maneuver on price. In a market where airlines are fighting for passengers, that efficiency, you expect them to have to pass some of it on to grab market share.
So lower costs could mean lower prices if the market dynamics work out.
Could, yes. The potential is significant.
Okay. So summing up the economic side, the C919 looks like a path towards maybe more commercial freedom for airlines, a way out of being locked into just two suppliers, and potentially the foundation for cheaper air travel within Nigeria.
That captures it well. But it's crucial, this whole economic calculation. It really rests on trust. Yeah, trust in a new regulatory system, trust in a new supply chain, trust in a new piece of technology. And that's exactly where this economic chat slams right into the geopolitical one.
Absolutely. Good pivot. Let's move into that segment too, the geopolitical lift. Because you're right, this is way more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. Approving an aircraft like this requires, well, deep diplomatic engagement, doesn't it?
It really does. Think of it as a major geopolitical handshake.
Yeah.
It's fundamental to the Nigeria-China relationship. Now, China's been heavily involved in Africa for years, building infrastructure roads, rail, ports, power stations.
Sure, we hear about that a lot.
But aviation, that's different. Certifying a complex, high-tech passenger jet, that signals a level of technical trust and, frankly, sovereign trust that goes way beyond pouring concrete for a bridge.
It implies long-term alignment, right? On safety standards, pilot training protocols, ongoing maintenance oversight. That's a huge commitment. A massive transfer of knowledge and strategic partnership.
It is. It's technical soft power, really in action. If Nigeria certifies this plane, it visibly strengthens the Nigeria-China bond. It sort of formalizes the economic ties in to something deeper, more strategic.
So Nigeria is effectively using its regulatory power as a diplomatic lever.
I think that's a fair way to see it. By giving COMAC this crucial entry point into one of Africa's biggest markets, Nigeria sends a very clear message on the foreign policy front. And this decision, it needs to be seen in the bigger picture of global aviation sourcing, too. This move, if it happens, is like a flashing signal to the rest of the global south and definitely to other African nations saying, hey, look, there might actually be a workable alternative out there beyond the usual Western aerospace suppliers.
It's Africa signaling, perhaps. We're exploring options beyond just relying on the traditional players.
Pretty much.
Okay, but let's inject a bit of caution here. Sure, this gives Nigeria potentially more leverage against Boeing and Airbus. But does this new partnership come with its own strings? Could they just be swapping one kind of dependency for another?
That is the absolute critical question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the sources do touch on this complexity. While Nigeria gains buying power, yes, they are also embracing China as a very key long-term strategic partner in a really sensitive tech area. And often these kinds of deals might be packaged with other things, maybe favorable loans for infrastructure or investment promises in totally different sectors. So the trade-off is pretty clear. You diversify your aircraft suppliers, but in return, you potentially deepen your strategic alignment with Beijing in a complicated risk calculus.
Balancing act.
Definitely. But for many countries, perhaps, the immediate upside seems to outweigh that longer-term risk right now. And think about the precedent. This certification, if it goes through, it sort of de-risks the C919 for everyone else watching.
Perhaps so.
Well, before Nigeria potentially signs off, any other country looking at the C999 is basically vetting a purely Chinese product, certified only by Chinese authorities. But if the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, an independent body with its own standards, says, yes, this meets our safety and operational requirements, then suddenly it provides a kind of blueprint. It makes it politically easier, perhaps, for countries like Ethiopia or Kenya or South Africa, who are also wanting to upgrade their fleets quickly and maybe more affordably.
Ah, I see. So the symbolism becomes really powerful then. Nigeria wouldn't just be buying a plane. They'd be sort of pioneering a new strategic pathway for the continent.
Yep.
This regulatory approval demonstrates shifting global alliances in a very concrete way. Technical sovereignty as a bargaining chip.
Absolutely. And just imagine the next time Nigerian aviation officials sit down to negotiate with Boeing or Airbus,
Right.
they're not coming to the table purely as dependent customers anymore.
Right.
The C919, certified, potentially ready to order.
Yeah.
That's leverage sitting right there in their back pocket. It could force the established players to offer better prices, maybe better maintenance deals, perhaps even technology transfer agreements to keep their foothold.
Changes the whole negotiation dynamic.
Complete.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together as we wrap up this deep dive. Let's synthesize the main takeaways for you, the listener, who's followed this potential move all the way from the regulatory offices in Abuja.
Good idea.
We've really landed on two big interconnected points from this potential decision, haven't we?
Seems like it.
First, looking inwards, domestically, commercially. This is Nigeria making a strategic play to lower the overall cost of flying for its airlines, give them more choice in planes, and hopefully, eventually, make travel cheaper for consumers by shaking up that traditional supply chain.
Spot on. Breaking the duopoly's hold, essentially.
And second, looking outwards, internationally, it's a clear geopolitical signal. It strengthens the Nigeria-China strategic partnership using that technical soft power we talked about, and it acts as a powerful example, maybe even a blueprint for the entire continent, showing that diversifying who you buy your planes from is now a real potent strategic option. Africa using its collective buying power to reshape its global ties.
Exactly. It's Africa saying, we have choices and we're going to use them.
Right. Now, as we finish, here's something provocative for you to think about after we sign off.
Okay.
If this works, if the C919 proves itself in Nigeria's skies, it's safe, it's efficient enough, the maintenance works out okay outside China's direct control, and crucially, if those airlines do see real cost savings, how fast might other African nations follow suit? Could we see the dominoes start to fall?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? If Nigeria demonstrates that embracing new partners brings real leverage and helps modernization, what does that force Boeing and Airbus to do?
Yeah, what's their response?
Will they have to radically change how they price things, how they structure maintenance deals, maybe offer unprecedented financing, just to stop losing ground across Africa to this new, very determined state-backed competitor? That's the next chapter waiting to play out up there.
A fascinating strategic challenge indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive, exploring where wings meet world power.
Always interesting. Until next time, keep questioning the connections between the headlines and the forces driving them.